Greetings, my fellow Imperials and Federation operatives. I am everyone's favorite Admiral, Potato Revan, and here today are a couple of rejects I have found lying around in a dumpster and Commander Type. So, our friend here, Travis, was talking. Yes, sorry, Centurion Type. So our friend here, Commander Travis, has a licensed CBS book about the Romulan Star Empire. So, Travis, you want to take this away?
Yes, everyone pay attention. I will be your lecture primaris of this particular part of Romulan history. We're going to be discussing what it's called the Federation Romulan War, but this was before the Federation was truly formed. It was called the Coalition of Planets at the time. So, with that in mind, I am reading. This is going to be a broad overview of the war between the Romulan Star Empire and what was considered the Proto-Federation, basically. This occurred in 2155, and the book is titled Star Trek Federation, The First 150 Years by David A. Goodman, and the copyright is from 2012, licensed under CBS. So technically, this history, all the good and the bad parts, are considered canon according to CBS as we know it. I just want that said that's their decision. That ain't mine. So anybody watching who finds that we've got, that show sucked, I'm like, well, I can't help that because a lot of this has a lot of influence from Enterprise, the last season of Enterprise, where that was the background. The big background buildup was the incoming Romulan Federation War, and Captain Archer is mentioned in this by name. So,
when did he become an admiral?
Shortly after they returned to Earth. That's in the previous chapter, and basically, Archer, because of everything he did with the Xindi, with all of that, they get back to Earth, and he is promoted to the rank of Admiral, and they start building the refitted NX series, and they built 2 more. There are 3 of these, and these things of their time were like the dreadnought of World War I. To put it in perspective, you put one of them out there, they mean something. And again, a lot of the ships could only travel to warp 5 at tops. This means a lot about what we're going to be discussing. So, is there anything anybody wants to say before I begin? Before we start going into the hows and whys?
So it says they built 2 more. Is this after the Enterprise? Because remember, we got the Columbia in, I think it was season 4.
4.
Yes,
we got the Columbia.
So,
in this book, they mentioned there are 3 active and 1 being built.
Okay, so that includes the Columbia.
And they were building the Saratoga.
Okay, I just wanted to
I know that in
clarify.
a lot of beta canon, for some weird reason, the NX-05 seems to be a common ship for everybody to play with. Yeah. I don't know why the 05, because I've gone into a lot of beta canons looking at things for my own ships, right? Mm-hmm. And it seems to be, I've got about 7 or 8 different NX-05s. More than any other number.
It seems like the NX-05 is the whatever the hell we feel like naming it ship right at the moment.
Yeah, pretty much. It's the fuck it, let's do it. Let's do this ship.
Indeed. Okay, so anything else before we begin?
Nope. Sorry for the Federation.
Okay. Okay, so. Yeah, this is true. He did. It's a very goofy canon, but
it's very strange canon.
I don't like Enterprise myself, but I have to go off these historical documents as we have them in front of us. All right. This is basically this book I'm using for the overview of the hows and whys of the war. The specifics are not explained here, nor have they been explained before. Now there is fan films, but again. Yeah, you can't really go off of those either. So
they are more factual than some stuff we've been getting out of CBS. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Believe me, you have my complete agreements on that. But I'm just stating for
Wait, CBS still makes Star Trek? Who knew?
No, they don't. They really don't.
They haven't
Yeah.
made Star Trek since Enterprise.
no, they
CBS
haven't.
right now.
I would like-
bullshit.
I would like to announce to the chat that Metal Murderer is making everyone here tacos. I would like to thank you. And order
Yeah,
two,
I'm
please.
jealous. I want tacos. Anyway, the big thing here is we're going to basically I'm going to give a overview of an event, and then we're going to kind of briefly discuss it. And if anybody has anything particular that they know of, either through fan films explaining it more or from something they read, please chime in, because otherwise it's going to be very generalized about the Romulan Federation War, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how did it start? Well, basically, the Romulan Star Empire at the time was under Praetor Gilius the First. Gilius the First saw the coalition of planets, which was slowly forming into the Federation, as a military problem. They saw that this particular group is gaining power and political influence rapidly, faster than any other organization in the universe at the time. In fact, they've been able to, in size alone from this coalition, was able to rival, as far as territorial size, the Romulan Star Empire. They'd never seen this before. This
I
was
would
a
like to
problem.
welcome. Sorry, I'm just welcoming a few people. I would like to welcome Mountains of Elysium, and I would like to welcome our missing panelist, Maxis, who decided to go and have fun instead of playing with us. So we hate you. And Jacob. Welcome, Jacob.
Yeah,
And
the
Mr.
opinions-
CBD and Murder Prey.
The opinions of this motherfucker do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the rest of the fucking panel.
Indeed.
Yes, it does.
Indeed.
Oh, speaking
Well-
about the panel, for legal
Welcome.
reasons. Sorry, go ahead.
Welcome to the lecture, every one of you. Please take your complimentary bottle of Romulan ale and sit back and join us, won't you? This is
And
a
for
glorious tale of history, and also a cautionary one, as we'll learn. Okay, so where did the conflict actually start? Well, it started with Starbase 1. Now, this is something that I personally have a problem with, because Starbase 1, for the longest time, was the first Starbase built around Earth. Usually that's what it was. But here, this says, and let me find it here, that at the time, that Warp 5 ships were slowly being built because they were still like Warp 2 or 3 was the majority. The Enterprise and those class of ships were the minority. So there was a rich industrial world found by the Tellarites. The Tellarites brought it to the attention of the Coalition, and the Allies decided that they all would share this, and that some, however, there was then a negotiation problem, and Starfleet engineers who originally found this treasure trove, they decided that they found that the Coalition, through the treaty and the signing of it, actually would secede this dilithium. It had, let me see here, dilithium castronium, which is or castrodinium, a very dense substance used in the construction of space habitats. And it was a very, very rich geological planet. Now, Tellar, Andoria, and the other Coalition planets already had a world of this like their own. They thought, in the spirit of cooperation, that yes, the humans can have this and be as a equal industrial partner. That was the plan. There was a problem with that. Where this world was located, it was let's see. I'm trying to find the name of the planet. This book is being ungodly uncooperative on specifics. And it was, let me see here. They found it in a system very close to the Romulan Star Empire border. Now, remember, This was before the neutral zone. The neutral zone did not exist at this
Well,
time.
that didn't come out till after all this, didn't it?
Yes. This was a hard border between the Romulan Star Empire and the coalition of planets soon butting into the
I
Federation
have
of
a
planets.
question.
Yeah.
Because a few different people I have seen were talking about the Federation, not the Federation, the Empire. And from a few different maps, the early one really seems to be two planets in TOS. Maybe they're the only two named. That could be it.
Maybe. I would have to go back and read that particular part because that takes place after all of this.
Yeah.
This is before even that. But the system this was located around was the Alderaan System. And it was the 5th planet in the Alderaan System. Now, as part of that, it butted right up next to the territory of the Romulan Star Empire. Now, how is this a problem? Well, the Romulan Star Empire correctly assessed that Earth was becoming a political powerhouse at a record-breaking speed. Their diplomatic capabilities were unlike anything seen in the universe of that particular time. Now, Gilius, the Praetor of the Romulan Star Empire, thought it would be wise to cut this off at the head. The Alderaan System, they could claim in his head, was an ancient claim that no one would know about and that they would be able to invade under the guise of ancient Romulan territorial claims. That was in his mind. The problem with that is that was not true. Now, okay, who's going to, and what they could find out from their intelligence sources all across the coalition space, because the Empire had those at large and still do, they found that the humans, in theory, wouldn't even be able to challenge this because they don't know anything about Romulans. They've never made actual first contact. In fact, it was so easy for Romulan operatives to operate, all they had to do was pretend to be Vulcans and nobody questioned it.
I have a headcanon.
Nobody questioned it.
Yeah.
So, I have a headcanon, guys. So, you know the way that the first official meeting was with Kirk?
Yes.
My headcanon is that's the first official meeting of the Federation, not Earth.
So you have probably like a Vulcan diplomacy go there too.
Well, I
No,
think
well,
what he might be insinuating is that was the first meeting with the Federation, but there was a meeting with what became before the Federation. Is how he's
The
just
coalition of planets, yes.
That.
Yeah.
If you remember in Enterprise, the season 4, when they do the Romulan arc, they never see them.
Yes.
Yeah.
They,
So the statement is true that they still never saw each other.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about each other. There was no formal contact or any knowledge of the Romulan Star Empire at this time.
Now, in the Enterprise TV show, did they ever get past the United Earth? Did they actually form the coalition of planets? Or not?
At the very end,
That was-
during
At the end.
That was
That
the
was the
Romulan
very-
drone arc.
it was
Yeah.
just stupid.
So, during the
Series finale.
Romulan drone arc,
Yeah.
Talar and a few others made peace. And when Talar made peace with Andoria, Strand turned around and he said to Archer, "You know, Archer, this is how coalitions are born." And then in the very last episode, that's when it's officially ratified.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, with that context in mind, this next part is going to be very important. Now, remember, they don't know anything about each other. This is what's important. A plan was set in motion on Romulus. Gilius had his military prepare for war, and he brought in his naval chief of staff, Admiral Mindar, to personally plan an attack on the Starbase and claim it for Romulus. In the Alderaan System, the first coalition Starbase, Starbase 1, was being constructed and was almost done. The resources would fuel this effort and the major efforts of the shipbuilding going on back and deep in coalition space for the next 20 to 30 years. Gilius seeing that as a prime opportunity to seize those assets for the Romulan Star Empire's own shipbuilding program. That's basically what this is about. This is a resource war. Now remember, you could only go maximum of Warp 5 at this time in history.
Well,
So,
as far as we know, the
as far
Vulcans
as we
could
know,
go
Warp 5.
The Vulcans could go Warp 7.
this is claiming that Warp 5 was the standard. Now, there may have been outliers.
They've already said that Vulcans can go Warp 7.
Yeah, they did, because our trip had a fight with a Vulcan. Was it an ambassador or was it some high-ranking Vulcan? And he said it would be nice if maybe we got some of those tractor beams, or maybe even one of those fancy Warp 7 engines that you have.
Okay.
And this I'm sure falls into complaining about the
Yeah.
canonicity of the Enterprise show, but
Yeah,
I'm sure I'm not the only person who
but they
thinks
were
it's weird
very
that the
consistent
extremely
with
high-tech
being
Vulcan
at Warp 7 during Enterprise.
the extremely high-tech Vulcan fleet and culture completely disappeared by the time the original series rolled around.
The writer here really wanted to stress the Warp 5 thing, and that's basically what
Okay.
I was operating off of.
No worries.
Okay, so the Vulcans can go Warp 7, but I don't know, how were they in a warship capacity? Were they any good?
More advanced than the Federation human
Yeah.
ships.
Yeah, they
Also-
were. Andoria and Vulcan were on par militarily, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Tellarite was just slightly lower than they were.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
they even said, T'Pol even said, Vulcan children play with more advanced toys than their sensors.
this is true. Okay. Granted, I'm not the biggest fan of Enterprise, so I've probably forgotten a lot because I haven't seen it in 14 years.
Well, after watching 3 seasons of Discovery, a season of Picard, you really appreciate Enterprise a hell of a lot more.
You really, really
I
do.
probably would, but we'll move on.
Yeah, so we'll move on with the book.
We'll move on to one of the important actors here. Now, Admiral Mindar was against this idea. He was a career officer, much older than Gilius, and a veteran of several wars of conquest. Mindar was hesitant to go to war with the humans based on his impressions of what he'd heard and read about them. And, quote, these are his writings. In a limited number of years, to a colleague after the war began, this is who he wrote it to. After the war started, he wrote these words. In a limited number of years, the humans have gone from being unknown in the galaxy to being at its social and political center. That, in and of itself, made it a species we should have been more cautious about attacking. But Gilius...
That is true. That
Yeah.
is great from Enterprise.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
so in Enterprise, there was actually a line where the Admiral Force was talking to Saval, was it?
Just before the assassination.
Yeah, and he said "Oh, you're brutish as a Klingon, you're stubborn as a Tellarite, and then you're as some as an Andorian, and then you turn around and you're as logical as a Vulcan." I don't know. We don't know. And he's like, "Are the Vulcans scared of us?" And he said, "I'm not saying that." But it was given out that the Vulcans were scared of humans.
Because they were able to achieve a ton of stuff before, even when Vulcans couldn't even do it. We were leaps and bounds in advancing. They were saying they were going to warp 2
in 100 years because
barrier.
I forget who said it or what show or what episode it was, but somebody said it. Look at what humanity has done in 100 years. Imagine what we can do in 200, 300 years time. Imagine what we can become.
I've always had my headcanon that the Federation was actually a leash that the Vulcans put on humans.
Really?
Well, that
I think it was
It's not without merit.
In my
Yeah,
own
I would-
canon, I feel like it was the humans that helped launched the Federation to begin with because of what we've seen in Enterprise. And then when you look at the TOS system, who's always in the head of the delegation or in charge of bringing the diplomats together and acting as mediator? The human.
Yeah. But we'll get back to the book. Go on, Travis.
Yep. Back to the book.
Okay. Now pin that. Mindar, the admiral of the Romulan Imperial fleet. He was the most experienced leader of the Empire at the time for military fleet warfare. He was against this. He did not want to do this, but the Praetor ordered, and as a good officer, he obeyed.
Good officers follow orders.
Exactly. So,
who got
on
that?
March 11th, 2156, Gilius sent a subspace message in his name claiming that the Alderaan System belonged to Romulus and ordering Earth to vacate immediately. The intention was subtler than it seemed. The Romulans were a cause of concern to many species in the quadrant, and as a result of the message, several coalition member governments ordered their ships to steer clear of Starbase 1. Now, they knew who the Romulans were, but Earth has never encountered them. Now, it was kind of hinted in what I saw from the original Enterprise series that no one really knew about the Romulans at all. So this part, I kind of little sus on.
No, I think they did know about the Romulans. They just tried to keep it on the DL.
Yeah.
The Vulcans at least knew of them.
In the episode Minefield, when Hoshi's like, the Romulans, or something, she said. And Paul's like, Romulans.
Yes.
Yeah, so the Vulcans at least knew of them.
Yeah.
Well, and doesn't Spock himself in the original series say that the Romulans... Or no, it's Next Generation, never mind.
Nope, it's...
but actually...
Someone mentions that the Romulans and Vulcans are from the same genetic line.
Of my Vulcan blood, and I believe so. Balance of Terror, original series.
But Katala, you also bring up a good point about Spock in the original series. Because Spock, when he was talking about the Earth fighting the Romulans at the beginning, he said that back then they used atomic weapons. So, I have a theory that at some point some bad happened.
No, I think also, back in the last season, back in season 3 of Enterprise with the photonic torpedoes, they were relatively new technology.
Yes.
I think when going into a war, they're going to go to a more tested and true system, which were the torpedoes they were using in season 1.
We're going to get to that. Things like that are mentioned here. We will get to that.
All right. Travis, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Okay, so now Gilius wrote to his son later on saying, I knew the details of the coalition charter. I knew the other members were not required to join a war on Earth's behalf. He was counting on that. He also was going to make that his bet that no one would interfere and join Earth's side, and he was going to take that chance. This is how the Romulan Empire, God bless it, operates. They don't do anything without researching the matter thorough. And Gilius was under the mind that if Earth stood alone, it would not stand. But we'll see how Admiral Mindar's warnings were very poignant later on. So, they have a threat from the Romulan Star Empire. Earth moves the NX-02 Columbia and the NX-03 Excalibur to Starbase 1 for quote-unquote scheduled maintenance. Now, you have two very powerful Earth-based warships in the area. Obviously, that's an escalation, and the Romulans were waiting for that. So, the next step for the Romulans was a surprise attack on Starbase 1, which was planned to occur 2 months after the warning. It gave the aliens enough time to give Starbase 1 a wide berth so the attack would affect Earth forces alone. Again, that was the plan. Let's make Earth stand alone. They cannot stand up to us. Again, that's the linchpin, and you'll see it fall apart later in the war. So, On May 18th, 2156, a fleet of 5 Romulan warbirds under the command of Admiral Mindar entered the Alderaan System. The NX-02, under the command of Fleet Captain Erica Hernandez, and the Excalibur, under the command of Brian Stiles, immediately saw that they were hopelessly outmatched. The Romulans were jamming all communications with Earth, so Hernandez ordered Stiles to escape the system and warn Starfleet Command. Stiles was reluctant to leave the Columbia alone to defend the base, but followed his orders and left the system. 2 of the 5 Romulan ships broke off from the attack to pursue the Excalibur, while the Columbia fought the remaining 3. Outgunned and outmatched, the Columbia was quickly lost with all hands. The 3 Romulan ships moved in and destroyed the base, then landed Crown troops to fortify their position and root out any survivors. By the end of the day, the Romulan flag was planted in the center of what had been called Main Street on the base. Meanwhile, the Excalibur could not escape the jamming of the 2 Romulan ships of pursuit. The lone survivor of the Excalibur, First Officer Bryce Schumer, relayed what happened in an oral history published of the war in its 5th anniversary. Captain Stiles knew that and I quote, this is his words, Captain Stiles knew that the Romulans were faster at warp, and that eventually we would be run down and have to engage in ship-to-ship battle. He also knew our chances were slim against the 2 Romulan ships, and it was paramount that Earth be warned. So, as the Excalibur approached the border of the Gamma Hydra system, Stiles ordered his science officer to scan ahead for any comet magnitude 5 or greater. The captain gambled that the Romulan sensors wouldn't even be able to penetrate the tail of the comet. They discovered one comet of such magnitude, and Stiles ordered his helm to alter course for it. He then ordered his first officer to take a subspace buoy onto a shuttle pod and to stay directly in the comet's trail. The Romulan sensors momentarily lost the Excalibur. Once they were in the tail of the comet, the Excalibur launched the shuttle pod, and then the Excalibur fought its doomed battle. The Excalibur was lost with all hands. However,
can we get an RIP in the chat for the Excalibur?
And it actually makes sense because Stiles says I did lose an ancestor. I did have family history in the Romulan War, so I'm glad that they included that.
Yes, they did. They did include Stiles' report, who was the first officer of the Excalibur. He did survive in the trail of the comet and did make it back to warn Earth, but he's the only survivor of the attack on Starbase 1. The only one.
I would also like to mention that Mendes of Elysium is a dick.
Wow. Glory to the Empire.
Yes, glory to the Empire, good man.
Yeah, you were saying, Archer?
Yes,
I was also going to say, speaking of, I was also going to say, I'm just wondering how, after the war happened, if there was face-to-face ground combat occurring between Coalition and Romulan forces, how nobody
there
knew
would have
Romulans
to be
looked like Vulcans until 100 years later.
Because the way I would have believed that they may have had helmets on.
I mean, yeah,
you
but they would
have
have
to
known.
understand that as per the terms of the Coalition, they were not obligated to share any of that.
So for talk's sake, we could have had face-to-face with Andorians, but they didn't say anything.
Exactly. They weren't obligated to do so. Pardon me.
I wonder.
Another cup of Romulan ale in celebration of this victory.
Oh yeah, we celebrated like it was
I wonder something though.
2099.
Would, if they went face-to-face, would the Vulcans say, oh, we are the closest related, we will go up against the Romulans, that means that we can get the thing, and then if they go face-to-face, they won't say anything about the Romulans, because at this point they were still hoarding their information?
It would be safe to say, but again, I'm not going to make that distinction because this is just an overview. I don't have that information. But now we get to the political fallout of what just happened. And it may surprise you what went down. At least it did to me when I read this. So, With the news of attack on Starbase 1, there were two very different reactions. At Starfleet, Admiral Gardner immediately wanted Earth to declare war on Romulus, but the United Earth Council saw things differently. We have to take responsibility for the fact that two of our ships in orbit of the planet provoked them. Remember, I said that earlier.
Yes.
Again, this was part of Gilius's initial battle plan, and it worked. Minister Samuel said in a meeting of the council, a slim majority of the council agreed and asked for Gardner's resignation as commander of Starfleet. Admiral Raphael Douglas was promoted in his place. Douglas, an orderly and detail-driven man, gave the impression that he would be more cautious with his dealings with the Romulans. Can you imagine? You just had a massacre and lost two of your best ships, and this was the political response. What do you got?
Oh, I can imagine it. All right, Biden would absolutely do that.
No.
I mean, I can see, the 24th century Federation being this weak on aggression, but I'm having a hard time imagining the pre-Kirk 22nd century United Earth doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a little bit hard to believe.
But yes, but guys, if you also remember, I have this. This is my problem. I don't know why you think yourselves. My problem is, why did they not? Because they were building the NXs one at a time. Why did they not lay down maybe 5-6 keels at the same time as they were laying down the NX-02? Once they knew that the NX-01, the prototype, was working. So when they had the NX-02, at the exact same time, lay down 5 or 6 keels, and you build 5 or 6 ships. And then when the NX-02 shows up, it's not just one ship. Go ahead.
I mean, I think this is going too deep into the weeds, because I would not have handled writing the Romulan War this way. My preferred take on it would be very different, but
I know.
Yeah.
we're going based on the canonical take.
We're
And
dealing
also-
with CBS, and they're pricks.
Welcome, Resolute Term.
That's
And I would
entirely
also,
true.
yes, and I would also like to say that pretty soon, at the end of the stream, that we will be plugging each other in the chat. But also, Armchair Warlord has his own book out. And we will be plugging that later on. Armchair, if you want to drop your link. Guys, if any of you want to drop your links in the chat, you're all moderators. Go. Shield yourselves.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I'll put my link in the chat. Thank you.
Now, Gilius wrote in his personal memoirs about this particular moment. They were clearly irresolute, and it could be wiped out much more easily than I had initially believed. Gilius immediately sent the Romulan ships back to the coalition space with the intention of destroying the rest of the human fleet and isolating the human homeworld in preparation of an attack. There is no doubt, Gilius wrote in his journal, we will win. Pin that, people.
Now, this is
That
what...
was well for him.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
on June 1st, 2156, Earth
That's
declared
today.
war with Romulans.
That is today.
Which is why it is very ominous, I will say, that we are talking about the day the war was declared today.
That is why you wanted to do the stream today. Very good timing, my friend.
Oh,
Hey,
that's great.
I know my business, okay? So, there were a lot of engagements from the Romulus and Earth forces. They had the J-class starships in number. That was all they had. If you've ever seen a J-class, think of a ball and a stick with 2 warp pylons. That's what it looked like.
So the data list, basically.
Yes, they had a good number of them. They don't say the exact number here, but they tried and tried and tried to stand up to the Romulans, and the Romulans were just slapping them away. Now, there were only, at the time, now, here's something interesting here, that the only point about these major losses of the Class J starships, they mentioned this specifically in this part of the war, and I wanted to bring this up. The 3 Warp 5 ships, the Enterprise, Constellation, and Atlantis, were not ordered to return to Earth to defend the Sol system as other ships were. The 2 new Warp 5 vessels, the Defiant and the Lexington, would also stay outside the Sol system. Earth would have to be defended by the slower J-class ships in the fleet. Admiral Douglas, who eventually took over as Starfleet after the gargantuan losses Earth suffered under the lackey they put in charge, also put Admiral Gardner in command of Starbase 2, an orbital facility near the Batraka Nebula, so that a commander with experience would be in the forward area. Now, the Romulan Star Empire prosecuted early a very complete and total annihilation of every battle they were in. No survivors, no prisoners. The Romulan Star Empire was wiping the floor with Earth. But there was a trump card that they thought they knew about, the Mindar defense system, which was around Mars. I believe that's what it's called, the Mindar. Does anybody know how that was said in the show?
Not really, no.
Dude, it is literally depending on where the actor's from. I heard an actor from the UK call it a Meteron, someone else called it a Materon, and one person called it a Miteron.
But in the show, do you guys remember Earth had a major defense array? The
Yes.
Admiral defense array. This array could one-shot a starship at the time.
I would also like for the for what he was saying. This is the starship. This is the J class.
Yeah,
The
the
Daedalus.
Yeah, the Daedalus.
Yeah, but not everyone knows what it was.
Right. Yeah, you got to be enough of a Trekkie to know that. Really.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes,
So-
that was a class. Can you leave that up on screen briefly?
I can. Give me 1 second. No, there you go.
So the Materon, for a little clarification as to that as well, it wasn't actually a defense platform originally. It wasn't until some what were they? They were human, like in a human terrorist organization. Essentially, took like a.
They were an
little
Earth first, Earth only organization.
Basically, they took a small ship, essentially plugged it onto this giant sensor array, and then created that massive weapon. Essentially, that's because the Enterprise was nearly destroyed by a glancing blow.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to continue on.
Okay.
Admiral Douglas knew he was in a losing proposition, so he reached out to the coalition planets. Remember, they fucked off in the first part of the war.
Let me take this down.
And yes, that was what was defending Earth and the Sol system, and they were
Now-
losing horrendously.
What about the triangle ships?
The Deltas? The war
The Delta,
Yes.
the Deltas, yeah.
They were just probably as useless as those.
They were.
So they were the Enterprise era's version of the what's it called? That little ship no, it's a little one where it's a little long ship with two warp nacelles and a circular hull section in the middle where if
Okay.
you fart and explode.
Well, the big thing here,
An Oberclass.
the big
Yeah,
thing
they were pretty
here,
much like Oberst.
Sorry, hold on 1 sec. Go ahead, Travis.
the big thing here is to mention that also is worth mentioning. At this point in the war, Admiral Douglas made a gambit. He contacted the coalition members. The Vulcans, Andorians, and Tellarites immediately agreed to ship food and medical supplies to Starfleet vessels fighting the war, and later to secretly supply ordnance and spare parts, but they could not officially take a stance. That's what their part was.
So what we did in World War II, basically, with the British.
And World War One.
Yes, think of it like that. We were on our own, but everybody else is like, yes, we'll support you.
Okay,
So-
all right.
So, the Romulans went on to occupy, and this is a key point, the Denovo system. The Denovulans at first were like, yes, the Romulans come in. We don't have any problem with them. And the Denovulans had very strong military ships, and their fighters were renowned at the time. The thing about the Denovulans is they thought if they let the Romulans into their system without a fight, the Romulans would stage and leave. That's not what happened. The Romulans killed all of the Denovulans in the ship, not in the ship, I'm sorry, in the starbase that was defending their system.
So you mean the conquering empire killed everybody on a military
And then they
front?
proceeded to occupy Denobula. This,
Shocking.
but the Denobulans started a resistance movement immediately and were waging a partisan war against the Romulans the whole time.
They sound French.
And
But
I would like to bring up here that again we have the Romulans mounting a military occupation of an entire planet, yet somehow nobody knew what they looked like until Captain Kirk met one face to face 100 years later.
Yeah.
Well,
Again, I'm just asking that we kind of politely kind of look over that because
Yeah,
we're
that's
just going
just-
over the war.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's just.
let's continue.
about
Let's not bring logic into this.
well, about the Denovo
Now,
system,
why did? Go
I'm just
ahead.
pointing out that again, if I was handling this, I would
Yeah.
like that piece of Star Trek canon is kind of a foundational thing, and it's
Kind of a mess.
if I was treating the Romulan War, I would go to great lengths to maintain that.
Okay, I know, but again, this is a generalized. Or think of it like a history book. Is the best way I could describe this tome here.
Yeah.
I've got you. I'm just
if you want, I
criticizing
can
the
show you.
writing.
Because
Okay.
even
Nothing on
though
you.
they might be, it's not the best. There was a map shown in Star Trek Picard with the Denobula
What
system.
now?
Okay,
I'm sorry, it just went quiet.
okay,
I know
so
Picard, but the Denobula system.
yes,
You got quiet, man.
You might have not heard about it after Kirk's time, because if you want to show what I show, there is the Denobula system, and this is
Okay.
an image of how it looked when it was during Star Trek Picard. It was still in Romulan space, so maybe that's why after the war, no one saw what the Romulans looked like because it was in Romulan space,
it might have been part of the neutral zone as well, or seceded to the Romulans.
and hence
Yeah.
why the
Well, if
Denobulans
this
That actually
is
makes
this
sense.
is a Picard map, and if you look, it's still in Romulan space.
yeah.
Okay,
Well, it's a Romulan free state. That's what it's called. But just saying, it's during this whole time we never see a Denobian after Enterprise. This
We
could
do
be the
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I
Yeah.
think that actually makes sense, which is the Romulans just conquered Denobulus and nobody
Yeah,
It
but
also
word didn't get out.
suggests that the Romulans completely exterminated them as well.
they did
well,
not.
We do see them in
No.
lower decks. We're going to be seeing them in lower decks.
Oh, that's nice. No, I'm just saying, up until that point, though, it does make it seem like the Romulans
Yeah.
exterminated them.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, Travis, continue.
Yep.
Okay, so the Denobulans were launching a resistance against their Romulan occupation forces. Now, why did they take Denobula? Because it was the best staging ground for the attack into Sol. Admiral Mindar said to Gileas that we had months to prepare for the attack on Starbase 1. We need more time to attack the Sol system. But Gileas was resolute about ending the war quickly. They were at Earth's home system. They could end it here and now, and he ordered Mindar to proceed as quickly as possible. He had 4 weeks. That was
That
it.
always goes badly.
This
Yeah.
is as a military professional, I'd like to note this is always a recipe for success.
Yeah. So now we're going to discuss the Battle of Sol, which it goes very quickly, but very badly for the Romulans. So the Meteron defense array was the first target of choice. Naturally, the Romulans proceeded to Mars, and it was lightly guarded. They thought for their best defense weapon, boy, this thing was really lightly guarded. And
Well-
they obviously destroyed it, not knowing that many of Earth's starships were taken. And the idea was to take out the Utopia Planitia shipyards, which they did. But Mindar was sending communiques back going, there's hardly anything here. there's minimal resistance. He knew something was wrong, and he will be proven why that is. Because out of nowhere, one of his ships was destroyed by a second Meteoron array weapon. They built one around Venus, which could reach across the solar system. So, Mindar ordered his forces on the backside of Mars, keeping the planet between them and the weapon. But then the Excalibur and the Intrepid warped into the system with J-class ships. The problem was the superior speed and maneuverability of the Romulan warships was completely nullified because they couldn't leave from behind the Mars planet itself. The reason they couldn't do that is because of this, the Meteoron weapon array on Venus. That weapon array, like I said, it one-shot starships. They only had like 6 or 8 vessels. And because the Romulans were contained, Earth stood a fighting chance. And eventually, the only thing that was left after the failed assault on the Sol system was 2 Romulan warbirds. Admiral Mindar, who was injured during the battle, and 1 other warbird out of 8. The Battle of Sol was a complete disaster. Admiral Douglas had pulled them into a trap.
This is what I never get. When you have a weapon like that, why don't you just strap 1 or 2 of them onto ships and have them dotted around the place?
They didn't have the power for it.
Yeah.
Was it that powerful?
The ships wouldn't have enough power to power one of those things.
Yeah.
But you
It was
know
not
you're
only that
transformer.
powerful, it was also probably that big.
It's not the Meteoron array, it's the Verteron array. I just found that.
Yeah, I was going to say, Meteoron doesn't sound right. I thought it was like someone with a V, but I couldn't remember what the rest of the word was. So, yeah, the Verteron array. Yeah.
Yeah, the Verteron array.
That's still the array. Oh, hold on. I got a picture of it firing.
Oh?
That's a metal murderer. Our ships are powerful, but they also look cool while doing it.
Oh, yeah. I believe me, I am a big proponent of the Romulan Star Empire. Glory to our warbirds.
So, for those of you who are watching, this is what the beam looks like. It doesn't look that big until you realize this is how big it is in space. That is the NX being nearly nuked.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think that I think the platform the gun that shoots that is probably too big to just stick on a starship of that time frame.
Yeah, because I was looking at it and I was thinking, like, if that's the saucer section of the Enterprise, strap that to the end. But I'm just talking about sizes. Quiet you.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Wasn't it stated? Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it was even stated in Enterprise at one point that the NX was actually underpowered in terms of its power generation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were
So-
constantly fucking with the engines.
Yeah, to try and tune them up for greater
Actually,
power output.
the Enterprise didn't seem finished because if you remember, they're like, we left, 6 weeks early and Jupiter Station said they can have it done in 6 months. Well, man, we're going to have these weapons built. I'm like, if that's just the weapons, what else hasn't been built that we didn't see?
Now,
Well, when they went back after the first initial Xindi attack, it was upgraded sensors, upgraded weaponry, upgraded. Pretty much every system on the ship was upgraded.
Yeah.
That was only
So-
like 2. If you take a season as a year, only 2 years difference.
Yeah. So, Travis, go ahead.
Now, Earth decided to counterpunch after this failed attack. They went after the Romulan shipbuilding experts in the Charon system. Now, the Gileas had put a lot of effort into perfecting the Romulan battle cloak system. The idea was that if we could perfect it, because remember, the cloak, quote unquote, doesn't work like what you think of. It basically made it invisible to sensors at the time this was being done. It didn't actually remove it visibly from space.
Can I get a pause in the Chat for the cat.
Yeah.
Like little
Now.
paw prints.
The big thing is that he was. They thought that Gilius believed that counterattack was impossible that deep into Romulan territory. He was wrong. The Charon system was liberated by Earth, and it was actually a very daring raid by Admiral Douglas and the Lexington and the newly recommissioned and rebuilt Columbia. Those two ships took the Charon system. Now, they had their major ship. They couldn't build any more ships quickly without the Charon system. But Earth had a problem. They couldn't end the war in a decisive blow because they had no idea where the Romulan homeworld was. They didn't even know how big the territory was. But guess who did? The Vulcans. The Vulcans were trying to find a way to help end this war in a peaceful manner. It just so happened that at what did they call that? The Sundering, where the two people split? Is that what they called it?
Yes, the Sundering.
Yeah.
During the
I thought
Sundering,
it was the Great Schism.
what is that? What it was?
I've heard it.
It was.
I depends
I'd
which.
have to look that up.
Yeah.
So
I think it's different things in different episodes.
It could
Later
be.
generations called it the Great Dissundering, while back around Xerox race they called it the Schism. Because even today we change words for things. Because in my country there was one thing which was known as the Great Departure, and today we call it the Flight of the Earls.
now,
Okay.
it just so happened that in a Vulcan archive, an ancient relic during the Sundering, there was a map to who later became the Vulcan or the Romulans' new homeworld. The Vulcans had the actual location of Romulus itself, but politically they didn't want to mess. So a lot of the higher ups in Vulcan society did not want to get involved and would not give that information. A Vulcan traitor is, as it is worded, or a Vulcan betrayer, they decided that they would give this information to Earth. A Vulcan, I guess, political defector, not really a defector, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
An informant probably is the best way of putting it.
And the person who came up with this daring plan was, believe it or not, T'Pau.
The POW?
T'Pau
That
was
actually does not surprise me.
Yeah.
T'Pau was the one who orchestrated giving this information to Earth.
Yeah, the dumb T'Pau kicked us out of the Vulcan
Yeah.
Hacking War.
Yeah, I know. But the big thing is now Earth had the coordinates for the Romulus system, and they decided to pull off a daring move that while they were attacking the Charon system, the Romulans would send everything they had to defend their shipyards, but any other ship that could move, that could warp, that was viable, was sent straight to Romulus itself, which Romulus had no idea about. The war ended when Admiral Mindar's fleet got a message after getting beaten down at the Battle of Charon to return to Romulus immediately because your homeworld is in danger. The Romulan Star Empire was now the homeworld of Romulus itself was surrounded by Earth ships poised to start firing nuclear weapons into its surface. And at that point, Praetor Gilius the First surrendered to Earth and began the Romulan Earth Peace Agreement, which established, you guessed it, the neutral zone. The Denovulans secretly smuggled out their most powerful warships to assist with Charon and helped Earth in this time.
And for their
Okay.
country, we wiped them off the face of the map.
Yeah. So, because Earth threatened Romulus itself, Mindar and Gileas were forced to surrender because they were they got pincered. Romulus was endangered, but if Mindar pulled away from Charon, he would be run down and blown away. The Denobulans could keep pace with the Romulan ships.
And the Denobulans were completely angry at them by that point.
Oh, absolutely. It was said that the Denobulans took no prisoners, no Romulan prisoners. They butchered every Romulan they came across.
We don't like being prisoners. We take our own.
Yeah. So
I would like to say again, for the Federation, fuck the Romulans.
Oh yeah, well fuck you too.
You want to watch
Long
$50?
live the
You
Romulans.
want to watch $50 on OnlyFans?
Ain't nobody want to
Romulus
watch this shit.
hailed the Empire, is all I'm saying.
That works for me.
Screw you. Romulus is great.
Damn,
Now-
Putin.
I mean, I find
Although
it
they-
amusing
they're
that
not
they
getting-
started that war and expected it to go in any way well for themselves.
Although that
You
they're
have
certainly
to
not getting treated
understand
great
that
by
you're
this
dealing with a very
Yeah.
young and arrogant praetor. This
That is
is a
true.
cautionary tale.
Well, hold on, Armchair, you were saying, man?
I said they're certainly not getting treated great by these writers.
No, they're not.
Not in
No, they're not.
Now, we only
Hey,
had
old
an
media
hour.
guy.
We only had an hour to cover this, so I had to
Yeah.
abridge a lot, even in this book. But
Well, we could do a part 2.
and
next
I would like to, if we would like to come back for another talk about this, I certainly
Yeah.
would be more than happy to, because I would like to kind of flesh out more about how this war was lost.
Why the
Because
fuck not?
it only mentions
Yeah.
5 key moments of the war, and then they go to the ending.
Seems
Okay.
fine to me.
Yeah,
so
I'm down
okay,
for part
so
2.
I'm going to rename this part 1, and we will so editing the name Romulan War.
Yeah. So, old media guy, yeah, I totally agree with that, and I feel like that's what they were going to do. But Les Moonves, the schmuck that he is, canceled
yeah.
Enterprise. But I honestly, I kind of feel like Enterprise was wanting to do what they did in DS9, where the first few seasons kind of led up to the Dominion War, and the last 2 to 3 seasons were Dominion War. I kind of feel like that's the route they would have gone with Enterprise.
Hey, old media guy, check your Discord, man.
Okay, so we're going to have to call it here, but I would love to have a nuts and bolts talk about this as well, where we talk about the ships, the equipment.
Very much so. This could
Yeah,
be
oh,
a new
yeah.
series. We could make this a new series on the channel. The Romulan War, Earth versus Romulan War series.
I will gladly.
Why would you not
advocate
just make
for
it
the
a Trek
Empire.
series? Because then you could just carry it on past the Romulan
Well,
fucking war.
Okay. So then I'll rename it again.
That'll
And
work.
Let's talk. Actually, no. This is called Let's Talk Star Trek: Romulan Earth Romulan War. So it's already
so you
called
could
something.
so you could just take the first part and tab it onto whatever thing we
Yeah.
do next.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That sounds
So
good.
this is the beginning of our new series. Let's call it Star Trek.
I'm glad.
Let's
I'm
talk.
glad we had
Yep.
Centurion Ty with us. It was
Yeah.
great to have you for this lecture.
But before we go, guys, can I get all of your links in the private chat, please, if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah, give me just a sec.
I don't have a
Thank you.
channel. I don't have a YouTube channel
Well,
yet.
dude, you work with me, so
Fair.
yeah. So go subscribe to Potato Evan. Shows my own link in my own chat.
Indeed, and please do join us again when we speak more of the great Romulan Empire. It will be a wonderful talk, and we'll be able to talk a bit more about not the generalization, but more specific things: the hows, the whos, the whys, things like that. I will be
Okay, so Armchair Buddy, can I get your book?
Yeah, I posted the link in the chat.
No, can I get the link in the thing? Because I'm going to do the shilling now.
Oh yeah, well let me paste the link here.
Yeah.
You know he's got it in the private chat already for you.
Does he?
Yeah, look above our link.
But I just put it in the normal chat. It's no big.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So, ladies, okay, so I'm going to... You're heading off now?
I'm sorry?
No, did you say that you're heading off now?
No, I said I've got a wrench and I can post links. I'm
Oh,
good.
yeah,
yeah.
that's right, yeah.
Okay, so for those of you in the chat who like games and love MMOs and Guild Wars, stuff like that. So, Catalalaris, also known as... Where are you on my board? Here. No, that is not Catalalaris. Go
That was
away,
Travis.
you. This person. Say hello.
Hi, guys.
Hello. Now back to the kitchen with you where all women belong.
Hey.
So, if any of you here love Guild Wars, Catalalaris is basically a walking encyclopedia. On her channel, which I'm going to drop to the link in the channel right now, she streams every few days in that. She does a live stream about Guild Wars. She's a mad laugh. She's a good to listen to. Her, Farvitia, and Armchair Warlord do it, and sometimes Common Sense America is on it as well. They're a good bunch of people. You can watch them. You can have a laugh. That is where a couple of my subscribers actually found me, which is great, and things like that. So, yeah, go over, have a laugh, like, subscribe to her, tell her we all say hi, and that, because she's one of us, and she's a nerd just like the rest of us. Now,
A bit of a heads up on that too. Farvithia Forever, Armchair Warlord, CSA, and I are actually planning a stream for tonight.
Tonight, yeah.
Oh, sweet, awesome! So So that's even more reason to go over and check him out. She's hilariously undersubscribed. So everyone, I demand of you all to go over there, or else I will kick her in the ankles.
Oh, be nice.
Wow.
Love you. So. Guys, if you're interested in a novel, right? If you want to get a new book for yourselves, because we all know those of us who have the ability to read like to use it. If you don't want to be spoken down to, if you're sick and tired of every book having SJW crap thrown in your face, our friend Armchair Warlord has gotten a book who all of those in the nerd community and those who bought it have given him a very high and glowing reception, and if I could read, I'm sure I'd do it as well. But his link is in the chat, Armchair Warlords. So let's see who else is in the private chat. Oh, we have Farvitia Forever. So a resident werewolf incarnate right here.
That's so fucking mighty.
Yeah, we know. Farvitia Forever. He is a retro games channel. Okay, so here's his link. Please go over to him. You'll hear him grumble, rumble, things like that. He's a great laugh. He's absolutely hilarious when he gets going, right? He is some laugh. He does retro games, retro style games, things like that. He talks you through them. He shows you tricks, tips, things like that going on in the game. He's a good laugh, and another person who is hilariously unsubscribed to as well.
Welcome to voice recognition by Nuance. Use your voice to dial names in your phone book and phone
What the goddamn phone?
What the hell?
My fucking phone was tripping balls.
So then we have Common Sense America, one of the co-founders of my little cult. He is going. Here's the link to his channel. This man bleeds red, white, and blue like any French person.
Wow.
And he's going. You wish. $50 on OnlyFans, man.
Dude, I would touch you with a 10 million mile and a half foot pole.
Love
Doesn't
you.
sound too structurally sound, by the way.
No, it doesn't. Does it have a dildo
boy.
on the end of it?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It's a lightsaber. Use your imagination.
Oh.
Again,
You don't want to use
anything
that
can be a
as a lightsaber.
dildo. Anything can be a dildo if you try hard enough. Can I get the word dildo in the chat?
God. Oh.
You don't want that.
Fayen and
Skewered
Helmetaye.
and dead.
So, guys, if you like Armchair Warlord, he's a good laugh. He's all this. He's starting up his own YouTube channel and everything. He already has a couple of videos on it that he put up live, walking around his new area of Tennessee. Talking about.
Excuse me, hold on.
That's
wait.
CSA, not
That's
Armchair
CSA,
Warlord.
not AW.
I promise I know they're different people.
It's actually a big conspiracy. The fact that CSA and I are different is an elaborate ruse that I've been keeping up for a long period of time.
We're kind of like attached at a hip. It was a birth defect. We can't get rid of it.
No, guys, it's CSA has a channel. So, he has a channel and everything like that. He's done around that. And for those of you who are interested, if you look in the background, you might see somebody we are all familiar with, a bird. Just saying. But yeah, go check him out. He's going to be doing regular streams in the future when he gets himself set up. So everyone go over, like, subscribe. Ty, buddy, you want to show yourself?
Sure.
And I dropped the link.
Yep. You can just come check me out. Look for this logo, not this one. This one will make an appearance eventually when I do my look back at the Romulans in Star Trek.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
This will be my normal one. So definitely come by, check it out. I got reviews about a whole bunch of nerdy stuff that hopefully you'll find something you like, and don't forget to drop a sub when you're there.
Yeah, and also, guys, this Sunday we're having a Jackbox stream featuring everybody's favorite invisible YouTuber, Bionic Belly Button. Watch, he is. So, yeah, well, sorry, or as I should say, everybody's favorite moderator, Bionic Belly Button. She will be joining us this week on Sunday for Jackbox, along with Phil, who decided to go out and play with his family rather than spend time with us. I'll have to have a very vicious word with him with steel boots. But guys, anyway, please remember, like, subscribe, share my video, because I really don't have any friends. These guys are prisoners, and the fact is, I don't exist. This hasn't been a live stream.
Keep me prisoner if you wanted to.
I keep you prisoner, baby. You just don't know it yet. But anyway, guys,
there's an angry woman behind me would really like to dispute that.
Dude, you piss off my bald eagle, he'll drop God knows what ordinance on your ass.
But guys, I would just like to thank everybody in the chat for commenting, liking, subscribing, and those of you who haven't, I would ask you again to hit that like button, and I would also like to inform everyone that I have just hit 120 subscribers.
Awesome!
Congratulations!
Congrats!
Well done,
Thank you.
sir.
So I'm on the road to 1 million. 1 million by tomorrow. Let's go.
Hey, man, stranger things have happened.
This is
I know, right?
I've seen one YouTuber celebrate his 300th sub, and then 2 weeks later, he's monetized.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. Max has said, I just saw a full throttle can, and I almost bought it because it screamed America.
You ain't wrong.
Yeah, so guys, I'm going to leave us all off here because we have rambled on long enough. So thank you everyone, and I will see you guys Sunday, and go over to Catala Laris to see the rest of these idiots fumble around on Guild Wars. Okay? So peace out.